Alright, so I'm currently trying to platinum every single type of EA game that there is out there, and if I can't do it before the channel hits 1 million subscribers, then my punishment is I have to platinum Fortnite, one of the longest, hardest, and most grindy games of all time. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Anyways, today I got the platinum trophy on Crysis 3. This is the final Crysis game inside of the trilogy, and previously I've done the other two, so we are officially wrapping up the Crysis games within the EA challenge. And boy oh boy do they not let us off the hook with this one, because Crysis 3 has some new trophies in the list and mechanics that are much more annoying than the previous two games, where the only real challenge in them was the Super Soldier difficulty playthroughs. And in today's game, the easy part is actually the Super Soldier difficulty playthrough, and I'm not joking, which should be the hardest part. But in total, Crysis 3 has 38 total trophies, including the Platinum Trophy. There isn't any guides available for the remastered version of the game, unfortunately, but there is one for the original PS3 version, and I try to follow that as best as I could, considering it is still the same game with the remastered version I played today, except there isn't any multiplayer inside of it. But kicking off Crysis 3, the first stage is just beat the story while playing on Super Soldier difficulty. Now this is labeled as stage 2 because you can optionally play on recruit for stage 1, but there really is no reason to do that if I'm being honest. And Super Soldier difficulty is also relatively easy on this game with that new bow weapon that got introduced, seeing as the bow is a completely silent killing weapon and you can abuse stealth in this game like John Jones abused his wife. But the plot for Crysis 3 kicks off with a bunch of rebels storming a Cell ship and setting free Prophet, who is the man inside of the Crysis suit. And if you remember in my Crysis 2 video that I made recently, Prophet offed himself in the game, so I'm very confused. And this is something that is common to feel, I think, with the Crysis games. They're very well made, don't get me wrong, they just do not tie together at all in any way. The writers must have been cooking something in that studio, and it was not a game. Oh my god! Anyways, you then take control of Prophet, and at first the dude who was our main side character homie named Psycho, as a matter of fact, was sort of just talking to us and trying to explain the current situation we are in, because it's been some time since Prophet was alive and out and about. But basically, Cell, who are the evil humans in this universe, are kind of in control of the whole world now. I also did get kind of confused and I just walked around in circles because Crysis 3 doesn't always give you the most direct waypoints for the story. But once I did find my way, we just followed Psycho through the Cell facility, which is where we are at right now, eventually reaching our first little combat encounter. And for the most part, I didn't try to fight people due to how hard Super Soldier difficulty can be in this game. AI enemies are pretty insane in the Crysis universe when they spot you. Sometimes they are kind of on the short bus, but for the most part, they're locked in. Also, if you don't know about how the Crysis games work, I highly recommend checking out my other videos on the series. But you basically play as some dude inside of a high-tech nanosuit that has armor and cloaking technology in it, making us able to go invisible for the most part, and that's how you stealth in the game for pretty much everything. A new weapon was also given to us in this game by Psycho, which I already mentioned being the bow, and as I said, it is a completely silent killer, also being my weapon of choice today due to that. But the Crysis Super Soldier difficulty gameplay does get quite boring most of the time if I'm being honest, because this is essentially it, just a lot of camping. I almost felt like I was playing Warzone for a second, and I got severe PTSD of rose skins tickling my ass cheeks. But the main thing we were searching for in this Cell facility was both info on Cell plans, but also the scientist people that captured Prophet and also tore off Psycho's suit because he used to be one of the nanosuit soldiers like Prophet is. Long story short, you don't find Jack here and then just move on to a new lead that is further into the city where the game takes place, being New York City. And if you aren't aware already, that is the only city in the world, and every movie, game, and TV show takes place there, it seems like. One's gracing the beautiful sun, however, that ends chapter 1 of 7, and the trophy from that pops being our first of the day. Now at the very beginning of chapter 2, you also do get introduced to the upgrade system of today and nano suit upgrade kits. These are required to upgrade our suit, and unfortunately you do have to find every single one of them throughout the game and then also use them and unlock every single upgrade on the suit. But it gets worse because Crysis 3 doesn't just have upgrades, it has another challenge after for the upgrade to make it better, and the other games did not have that, thank god, because they basically all just suck balls and it drags this game's playtime out by hours to get the platinum. However, upon buying my first upgrade, I got a trophy, so here it is. Now as I said, we are inside of chapter 2 at this point, and chapter 2 is when the plot and things we did actually began to matter. You at first get introduced into a new hacking feature that is used throughout the game on enemy robots and mines for the most part. Now a lot of people for some reason thought that this hacking thing was dumb, but I personally didn't really see any problem with it, and it's actually super helpful sometimes, especially on this high difficulty. But the goal of this chapter was just kind of make it through this foresty area of New York, and we also encountered a load of Ceph aliens on the way because now that Prophet was freed, it sort of awakened them around the area and they came out to play, if you will. But there was a combat area where a jammer was interfering with our suit interface, and it was actually super annoying. You know, the suit in this game is like our entire purpose here, and I mean that literally. Nobody would give a flying rat's ass about Prophet if he didn't have the suit on, and that's a sad truth. but actually disabling it just had some combat with Ceph, and then you just sort of touch it, so here's the trophy. The rest of the mission then had more and more combat with the Ceph, but thankfully we got given a turret to combat them with eventually, which made it very easy to do. You then end off the chapter with Psycho and Prophet riding a literal cargo container from a train full of gasoline down the train track because we desperately needed to escape and this big ass door was shut. But like riding explosive things go, it eventually blew up and Prophet actually was the one to blow it up to help us escape furthermore. After the dust settled, we were fine thankfully, and Psycho and Prophet then chatted up in the dark like real homies do before the chapter's trophy popped, segueing us into chapter 3. Now this chapter is called The Root of All Evil, and it's the first of the remainder of chapters that are more large scale and not contained within just one tiny area. Before getting into the chapter, however, Prophet did fall down an entire elevator shaft and it was quite goofy, I'm not gonna lie. But once at the bottom, you end up in this big open area with two directions to go in. Both ways end up just being elevators to get atop of a dam though. And that's the big plot point we had for the first part of this chapter, needing to both shut down but also destroy this massive dam generating power for the Cell, who is the human enemies in the game. And it's very self-explanatory, just follow the objective markers to shut down and destroy the two power relays for the dam. You then blow it up with Prophet just plopping a massive charge on its base and conveniently ziplining away. I don't know who the hell put that there, but God bless them. Like you would expect, the dam then blew up and also did flood the rest of the mission, at least for the next part, which had us navigating that. Enemies also got scattered absolutely everywhere, and it was kind of a pain to stealth through this, mostly just because the cloak does have a time limit before it needs to recharge, and hiding as a massive man in a very obvious suit is a bit hard to do as you would expect. But after you do make it past all of that BS, you end up in the final area of the chapter being yet again another facility, with the goal of us trying to reach again another elevator. Going down, it puts us inside of this control energy balancing room thing, and you pretty much just have to essentially power it all down and ruin the cycle of things. Then you take another elevator up, and this leads to the control room for everything we have been destroying. Pressing the final button, and we eliminated what we thought was the Cell energy creation. However, you go on to see quite clearly that the Cell people were actually just imprisoning the Alpha Ceph, and we pretty much just let it loose. It then called its home planet through a beacon in the sky, and it's time to say goodbye to this world. Before that though, I got 3 trophies, one for completing chapter 3, then for completing 3 chapters on Super Soldier difficulty, and 3 on Veteran difficulty, which are the stacking difficulty trophies of this game. You then begin chapter 4, and this is probably the worst chapter in the game because it's so dry. It's a very much in-between building chapter. Considering we just had a massive story drop on us, I won't judge the devs for not knowing exactly how to top that right after, but the goal here was to reach Psycho, who was miles away from us, and in between us was a load of Ceph aliens everywhere. Considering the Alpha's back now, basically every single one of them is awake and back on their initial coded mission to make the human race extinct. So you have to fight a ton or just be really good at being a little bitch. I mean, doing stealth. And yes, I did stealth as much as I could. Bitch made, baby, and I'm proud of it. I did also end up hacking my 20th thing, however, for a trophy called the Gibson. And I have no clue what that's referencing. This game released when I was 8 years old and I have no memories. But eventually I did reach Psycho, and we took yet again another elevator trip. These developers really did love elevators, don't they? Personally, I would have loved to see an escalator, but that's just me. Anyways, you end up making it to the operating room where Psycho got his suit torn off because he is still stuck on getting revenge for that. Evidently enough, the scientist who did it was a girl, and also the same chick who was helping Psycho run the rebels for some more lore if you guys haven't played this. So that's kind of a big deal. Not really sure how much it matters now though that the Ceph are back to kill us all, but hey, emotions exist too. And so does this chapter's trophy, which popped right after that soap opera episode with bald men. So we are now on to chapter 5, which is one of the longest chapters in the game. I think 5 and 6 in total are the longest parts of the story, but it's long because like I said, this game's remaining chapters are all in big open areas. And this one was also so open, you had to drive a damn buggy to get around it, which was cool, don't get me wrong. However, there wasn't really a ton of stuff to do with it besides just ride it to the next objective marker, so that was a bit of a wasted opportunity in my eyes. But we were also trying to reach this guy named Rash, who I think was in the previous Crysis games. I don't honestly know or remember, but I don't think it really matters because the game's story changes so much game from game. I'm not sure anyone knows what's happening. However, Rash, which is his name, a bit of an L-pull, is like super smart and in with the Ceph. I'm also pretty sure he is one of them. And after you do find him, which took about an hour of alien combat and orgies to get through, by the way, he then sort of spills the beans on what's happening, the Ceph's plan, and we find out that we're pretty much even more screwed than we imagined at first. Essentially, the aliens' big plan is to send a beacon onto Earth, straight from their home world, to just constantly send in aliens and both overwhelm our forces, but also just take over the planet for their own, and do whatever Cephs do on a casual Sunday. Don't worry though, we have Prophet to save us, so we're fine. But once that chapter ended like the others, I got another story trophy pop. I then began chapter 6, and this is the last real chapter of the game in layman terms. Chapter 7 is still substantial, but just very different than these chapters have been. However, 6 is also the hardest in my opinion. It's also the biggest. You sort of just get dropped into a giant area with numerous power sources we need to go around and drain to get their power, because Prophet's suit can absorb it and it makes us stronger while making the aliens weaker. And while doing this, I also did fight these giant aliens called pingers, and they're just super strong and hard to defeat. You don't actually have to fight them, but I did because they kept on killing me. And I ended up eliminating all of them, which was a trophy called ping pong, so that's good. I guess being abused has its benefits. Just ask any stand-up comedian. So like I said, you have to go around and drain these power sources. Upon doing the last one, Psycho then comes in with a ship for us to hop onto after clearing the exfil location. And once you do get in though, you then man these ships' guns, and you have a 5-minute straight combat section where you shoot at alien ships flying by us, with about a second or two of actual time to shoot them before Psycho jerks the ship in another direction like he's a single 40-year-old man getting absolutely no play. This is by far my least favorite part of the game, by the way, and only because it lasted way too long. Usually that's not a bad thing, but damn it, after 2 minutes of this I was just bored and also frustrated because I felt like I was getting my alien ass destroyed by the enemy ships, which was probably true. However, I didn't die somehow. Once you do land finally, you then begin a sort of boss fight, which was actually quite hard. I did die, yes, I know, a shocker, but I'm also not sure exactly what the meta is in fighting this boss. At first I thought we should just shoot the thing's little drones around it because they look like good hit points and go away after you do kill them, but that didn't really do anything besides kill them, so I don't even know if it actually did anything to the boss. Eventually I did win though, so W, I guess. I have no clue how. But then Prophet ends up falling into the beacon that is being shot up into the alien's home planet, which is quite an interesting choice of attack, and it all goes black. But then a trophy popped to save us. So we are now in the final chapter, being chapter 7. And this one was very odd, to be honest. It first begins with you waking up in a dark cave, very injured. You also don't have any suit powers for the most part until draining another power source in this area we are in. But once you do make it to the power source, you're kind of chilling for the rest of the chapter because the goal is to just keep on doing that, and every time you do drain one, you then get invincible for a few minutes. And after draining the final one, you just become invincible completely. This was also the perfect time to get some supercharged kills for trophies, but I decided instead to just tunnel vision towards my objective to beat the store because I was afraid of dying at the very end of it. After interacting with this final little beacon thing, or at least trying to, the final boss of the game then appears, and it's the Alpha Ceph from earlier. This boss fight was also very hard and confusing. The only way to even damage it is by hitting its weak points that just show up when they feel like it, so that's amazing. I died quite a few times unfortunately, but I did eventually manage to knock out a commission. However, Psycho ended up also coming in to help, and the game then ends sort of weird with a giant flash of light, and we just end up in space with 2 trophies popping from beating the game in the final chapter. No clue how we got here at all. But you also hear that girl from earlier who has beef with Psycho in our ears telling us we have the power to do anything to save the Earth through our nanosuit that has now been fully charged up with all the power we have sucked up like a sorority girl. However, we chose to just use this laser beam on the aliens tentacle from their home world. You could even say this was the alien Ussy, and we just lasered it, which then does actually finish off the game, and the 2 difficulty trophies also pop, so here they are. A bunch of cutscenes then happened. We also saw Prophet after his time in the suit, choosing to live in a worn down beach house. I know damn well he ain't got running water, so who's the real winner here, Prophet? But that was then the Crysis 3 story finished with. We are now on to stage 3, I think, which is just the cleanup of the remaining trophies. This could also be considered stage 2, but whatever, you get it. Now, this is when the game just gets ass, if I'm gonna be real. The first few trophies aren't that bad. I got one from doing the tutorial, which I skipped at the beginning because I know how to play this game, but here is that. I then did a bunch of combat trophies, and I don't want to explain all of them because they're all pretty similar. I did, however, end up shooting a deer in the head with an explosive arrow, which I personally found hilarious, but that's just me. After those combat trophies, though, I did do one from riding a donut down a river, and this is a nod to the previous game having a trophy related to donuts as well. If you know, you know. I then did a trophy from shooting an enemy in the knee with an arrow. Shout out to that reference. I stealth killed a Ceph stalker, which is what my ex-girlfriend Stephanie used to go by, the Ceph stalker. I then performed 20 stealth kills on enemies, took out an attack helicopter with the Predator bow, killed 25 enemies with supercharge on, ran over 5 people with the buggy, got a double kill using a crate kick, ripped off or looted my final alien weapon type, and then I got 10 enemy kills while supercharged in one go. And finally, for my last random trophy, I just killed 10 enemies by throwing objects at them while in stealth. So that was all of the random trophies. Sorry if that was repetitive, it was even worse doing it for real. But the last 3 trophies, being from unlocking all weapon attachments, retrieving all intel, and upgrading all nanosuit modules to max level, absolutely blow balls. Big fat cum dripping balls for that matter. The first one I got, being the all weapon attachments one, was bad because getting these isn't done by leveling up or doing certain kills like a COD game, for example. Oh no, getting attachments is by killing enemies and getting lucky if they drop the right gun with the right attachments on it. And there is 20 of them that you need. So you pretty much just go around and kill enemies and basically pray they drop the gun with the attachment. Shout out to the guy I did follow though, it showed the best likelihood areas to find the guns, but it still sucked caca. The second trophy here was somehow worse than that though, being a collectible trophy. And it sucked because this game's collectibles, while they do show you the stats of them, there isn't a single guide out there on the internet that had the info to go that deep, which meant I pretty much had to go do an entire extra playthrough to find every single collectible in the hopes I already had them gathered. I hate redoing shit, by the way, if you didn't know. It's like my least favorite thing to do in a video game. But finally, the last trophy was called Suited Up. This is by far the worst trophy in the game. Not only is finding every single upgrade module hard and annoying to begin with, but they don't show up as collectibles in any stat sheet of the game, meaning I again had to go do another playthrough for them to find them all. But even when you do unlock every single upgrade, you have to then equip them 4 at a time, and then do very tedious challenges for them. Here's a list of all the challenges, by the way. Huge shout out to the multiple challenges needing me to take 100,000 damage plus. FYI, that takes about 30 minutes straight of getting hit repeatedly to accomplish accomplished. That's great. Okay, yeah, I got my rant out. Sorry, here's that trophy and the platinum trophy pop on Crysis 3. Something about this game I just really didn't fuck with. It seemed very disorganized. No clue how we got here from Crysis 2, which I just played. I don't know if I'm dumb as hell or what, but it just made zero sense. Anyways, that's all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe or else I'm gonna go get a job application at some real place. I can't stand this shit anymore.